Since the late centuries BC until the 1st and 2nd centuries AD, the Roman Empire ruled the whole civilized world with an iron fist. One of the provinces they ruled was the area where Israel and Palestine today. They ruled and dominated the area for a long time without having been encountered with a specific resistance. The unhappiness of the people of the area started to come out with the acts of a radical resistance group separated from Jewish zealots. They began to reflect their unhappiness short before the destruction of Jerusalem by Rome in 70 AD. The group was generally consisted of idealist, radical, angry young Jewish men, who were heavily opposed to the Roman presence in their land. Their methods were different from other Jews who were trying to live under the Roman occupation in peace or tried to fight them politically. This extremist group used to conduct terror-like attacks like setting carts in fire, conducting assassinations and creating chaos in the marketplaces. They were in fact the most radical and horrifying Jewish sect called as Scarii by Romans. These extremists among the zealots used the methods of terrorism and assassination. And they started to be known as Scarii, which means in Latin, the dagger men. They frequented public places with hidden daggers to strike down persons friendly to Rome. In the first revolt against Rome between the years 66 to 70, they played an important role. Just 4 years before the destruction of Jerusalem 70 AD, things started to get even more sinister with the act what historians call the Great Jewish Revolt. The Scarii ceased to be secret and entered Jerusalem and began to encourage Jewish citizens to fight against Roman authority. When the Romans captured the city, many Jews wanted to surrender, but the Scarii destroyed the city's food supply so the Jews would have to fight against the Romans rather than negotiate. After the Romans took control of the city, the Scarii left Jerusalem and marched towards the Dead Sea region and captured Masada. They slaughtered more than 700 Roman soldiers to take control of the castle. They also took Antonia and waged a guerrilla war against the Roman legions in Judea. After the fall of Jerusalem, the Romans began to restore order in Judea, suppressing the last resistance of the zealots. The last and longest of this process was the siege of Masada. As you can see in the pictures, even today, traces of the areas where the Roman legions camped remain. The Romans set up the camp for a long siege and a military garrison formed on the outskirts of Masada. The predicted long siege time was certain, considering the fort's inaccessibility from all directions and the availability of sufficient supplies and water. In particular, the 12 cisterns of the Eagle's Nest Castle carved into the rocks were more than enough to meet the water needs for a long time. The existence of water and land made even agriculture possible. As expected, the siege lasted about 3 years in spite of every kind of attempt to capture it. There were no way to reach to the ground level of the castle and the Romans were always at the skirts of the high cliffs surrounding Masada. The solution of Romans was a long-term plan. At first, they built a circumvallation wall around the mountain not to let anybody escape. When it is over, they started to build a ramp with stones, sand and soil which would reach to the main gate of Masada. That was an impossible-looking construction project when the building techniques of those times were considered. But the cheap and ready-to-use manpower of Romans could succeed it. When the ramp, which is still visible nearly 2,000 years later, was ready, the Romans tried to recapture the fort with their siege machinery. The ramp was 600 meters long and rose 61 meters to the castle walls. After reaching the ground level of the fort, the Romans pushed a siege tower off the ramp. Before long, a crack appeared in the wall. The castle passed into the hands of the Romans. But when the Romans entered the fort, they realized that 960 residents of the fort had committed mass suicide. Jewish historian Josephus gives a full information about the siege and the aftermath, saying that 2 women who survived by hiding inside witnessed the events. They say that, just because suicide was against Jewish belief, the Scarii had drawn lots to kill each other after killing the women, children and elder people. Only the last man would be the only one to suicide. Masada was the last act of the Jewish war. The Jews became scattered into areas around the Mediterranean and thousands of them were sold into slavery. For many, this story symbolizes Jewish heroism, courage and strength. It could be true or fiction, but the fact is that people of Masada managed to keep hold of the mountain for nearly 3 years. With a mental approach, it could be thought that conducting a final attack against the enemy after killing the women, children and the elder people, and die as heroes would be a better choice. Just as the Lycians did. Speaking of this legendary decision and act of the people of Masada, it is necessary to make the readers informed that about the same story is being told for the people of Xanthus, which is a Lycian city at the southern part of Asia Minor. Trojan War heroes and Lycian leaders Glaucus and Sarpedon are described in the Iliad as coming from the land of the Xanthus River. Both Herodotus and Appian describe the conquest of the city by Harpagus on behalf of the Persian Empire in approximately 540 BC. According to Herodotus, the Persians met and defeated a small Lycian army in the flat lands to the north of the city. After the encounter, the Lycians retreated into the city which was besieged by Harpagus. The Lycian warriors destroyed their own Xanthian acropolis, killed their wives, children, and slaves, then proceeded on a suicidal attack against the superior Persian troops. Thus, the entire population of Xanthus perished. As it has been seen many times, this story was also used 2 times by different civilizations which were present centuries far from each other. The source of the elder one is the famous historian Herodotus and the other one is the Jewish historian Josephus. One of them could have been inspired from the other one, both of them may be fiction or both are true. We believe or not, these are the stories or legends which makes history more exciting.